Did you know that in 2012, a 700-foot deep sinkhole destroyed nearly an entire Louisiana town? Or that the state has the highest alligator to people ratio in America? How about the fact that it loses a football field of land every 90 minutes? Well, Louisiana is full of mind-bending facts like this, and we've got 50 of them for you. So let's get right into it. Fact 50, vanishing coastline. Since the 1920s, Louisiana has lost 2,000 plus square miles of land. Today, as we said, it loses a football field every 90 minutes, as the Gulf swallows more coastline. The cause isn't ancient geology, it's modern engineering. Levees and canals starve the wetlands of new sediment, leaving towns and ecosystems to literally sink away. Louisiana is now fighting a race against time to keep entire communities from vanishing underwater. Fact 49, a lake drained like a giant bathtub. In 1980, a drilling accident punctured a salt mine under Lake Peigneur, creating a whirlpool that swallowed 11 barges, a tugboat, and 65 acres of land. The chaos even produced Louisiana's tallest waterfall at 164 feet as the Gulf rushed backward into the lake. Once just 10 feet deep, Peigneur became a 200-foot saltwater basin. In a bizarre twist, 9 of those barges later popped back up to the surface, leaving behind one of America's most jaw-dropping engineering disasters. Fact 48, hidden meteor crater. In 2023, LSU researchers uncovered a 1-mile-wide meteor crater buried beneath St. Helena Parish. It's Louisiana's only known impact site and one of just 120 on Earth. Around 10,000 years ago, a 100-foot space rock slammed into the state with the force of a small nuclear blast. Today, the scar hides under quiet forests and soft soil, invisible to anyone passing by. Fact 47, the town-eating sinkhole. In 2012, Assumption Parish witnessed Louisiana's most terrifying real-life monster movie when a tennis court-sized pit revealed itself as a collapsed salt dome cavern. It kept expanding until it became a 37-acre, 700-foot deep lake of oily, methane-bubbling mud, big enough to swallow the Superdome's roof 4 times. This swamp monster devoured entire trees and land, forcing 350 residents to permanently abandon their homes. By 2018, only a dozen families remained, leaving behind a modern ghost town in the heart of Cajun country. Fact 46, the river that almost ran away. By the mid-20th century, the Mississippi River was ready to abandon New Orleans and Baton Rouge for a shorter route through the Atchafalaya Basin. Engineers warned it could have jumped ship by the 1970s. In response, the Army Corps of Engineers built the Old River Control Structure in 1963, a massive set of floodgate handcuffs that chained the river in place and saved Louisiana's ports from becoming stranded backwaters. Every flood season, the restless Mississippi still tests these shackles like a geological Houdini, reminding us that Mother Nature doesn't like being told where to flow. Fact 45, bridge across an ocean? Louisiana's Lake Pontchartrain Causeway stretches nearly 24 miles, making it the world's longest continuous bridge over water. Its infamous 8-mile middle stretch surrounds drivers with nothing but sky and water, so disorienting that some suffer panic attacks and need police escorts. The bridge has even doubled as an emergency runway when a plane ran out of fuel. For those miles, it feels like a maritime mirage where the horizon disappears, and you're not sure you're still on Earth. Fact 44, a parish bigger than Rhode Island. Cameron Parish spans 1,932 square miles, larger than the entire state of Rhode Island. Yet, only about 5,000 people live here, making it Louisiana's largest parish by land, but second smallest by population. Most of the area is remote marshland and Gulf coastline, where alligators and migratory birds outnumber humans. At night, you can drive for miles with only stars and marsh grass for company. It's Louisiana's Wild West, except with Spanish moss and the occasional gator crossing the road. Fact 43, overrun with alligators. Florida has about 1.3 million gators, but Louisiana blows past it with over 2 million wild and another million on farms. Roughly 1 for every 2 people, the highest ratio in America. In some parishes, it's normal to see these living dinosaurs sunbathing on levees or lounging in backyard ponds. It's like Louisiana signed a lease with prehistoric reptiles and forgot the eviction clause. Luckily, most keep to themselves. But here's your Cajun reminder, always check the water before diving in. you might interrupt a 200 million year old family reunion. Fact 42. Giant swamp rats everywhere. Louisiana's marshes are under siege by 20-pound rodents with day-glow orange teeth called Nutria. Imported from South America for fur farming, they never left and now devour the state's wetlands like an all-you-can-eat buffet. To fight back, Louisiana put a $6 bounty per tail, and hunters have wiped out more than 6 million since the 2000s. Hundreds of thousands each year in a desperate effort to save the coast. Fact 41. The mountain shorter than a skyscraper. Driskill Mountain, the state's highest point, tops out at just 535 feet above sea level. 2 downtown New Orleans buildings are taller, and even the 450-foot state capitol nearly rivals it. Driskill ranks as America's 3rd lowest high point, making Louisiana flatter than a pancake convention. And the hike to the summit? More like a pleasant stroll that would barely even register on your fitness tracker. Fact 40. City below the sea. Once above sea level, about half of New Orleans now sits below it, with some neighborhoods sinking 10 to 14 feet under the Gulf. Built on drained swampland, the city survives only through levees and non-stop pumping. That gamble collapsed in 2005 when Katrina's surge smashed the floodwalls. The geography is so surreal, you can stand in parts of the city and watch water in nearby canals flowing above your head, like living inside a twisted aquarium. Fact 39. Engineering marvel of pumps. New Orleans doesn't play around when it comes to staying dry. The city operates one of the world's most powerful municipal draining systems, featuring 120 giant pumps that can collectively blast nearly 50,000 cubic feet of water per second into Lake Pontchartrain. That's roughly 370,000 gallons per second of liquid power. So ridiculously potent that this pump army could theoretically suck the entire River Thames bone dry. Invented over a century ago by local engineering genius A. Baldwin Wood, these mechanical marvels have been the city's liquid lifeline, heroically battling rainstorms that would otherwise turn the bowl-shaped city into an unintentional swimming pool. Fact 38. Rainiest state in the lower 48. Louisiana averages about 60 inches of rain a year, more than any state except Hawaii. Here, downpours aren't weather events, they're a lifestyle. Afternoon thunderstorms hit like clockwork, while winter rains can drag on for weeks. Parts of South Louisiana top 70 inches annually, fueling swamps and rice fields. Summers turn the air into a natural sauna, and locals joke that August showers are pointless. You're drenched the second you step outside. Fact 37. Mega lightning. On April 29, 2020, Louisiana helped host a record-breaking mega flash, a single bolt that stretched 477 miles from Texas across Louisiana into Mississippi. Confirmed by the World Meteorological Organization, it briefly turned 3 states into one giant light show. The northern Gulf Coast is already one of the world's top lightning hotspots, but even locals had to tip their hats to this bolt that refused to stay in one state. Fact 36. The island that vanished. Once known as the Louisiana Capri, Last Island was a 25-mile resort for the wealthy until disaster struck in 1856. A Category 4 hurricane with 150-mile-per-hour winds and a 12-foot surge shattered the island, killing nearly 200 people and splitting the land in half. Today, only a few sand islets remain, a stark reminder that Mother Nature can erase entire civilizations in a single night. The devastation was so legendary, it gave Ile Dernière its foreboding name. Fact 35. Hot sauce saves the egrets. In the 1890s, fashionable hats were driving snowy egrets toward extinction, as hunters slaughtered them for their delicate white plumes. Tabasco heir Edward Ned McElhinney noticed this crisis and took action on Avery Island. He founded Bird City, hand-raising a small flock of surviving egrets and releasing them to migrate. The gamble worked. When they returned, they brought thousands more. By 1911, the refuge hosted an astonishing 100,000 egrets every summer. McElhinney's experiment became one of America's first great conservation success stories, earning praise from President Teddy Roosevelt, who called Bird City the most noteworthy reserve in the country. Fact 34. America's largest swamp. The Atchafalaya Basin is often called Louisiana's Amazon, a 1.4 million acre wilderness of bayous, cypress tupelo forests, and marshes. Roughly the size of Delaware, it's home to sunbathing gators, wandering black bears, endless crawfish, and countless migrating birds. But it's more than wildlife. During Mississippi River floods, the Atchafalaya acts as a giant pressure valve, absorbing excess water to spare downstream cities. Here, locals still travel by boat through maze-like waterways and make their living the old-fashioned way, harvesting crawfish, fish, and fur just like their ancestors. Fact 33. Pelican comeback. Louisiana's state bird, the brown pelican, was completely gone from the state by 1963, wiped out by DDT pesticide poisoning. But in the late 1960s, biologists launched Operation Pelican Rescue, importing chicks from Florida to repopulate the coast. It worked. The birds thrived and multiplied until by 2009 they were removed from the endangered species list. Today, pelicans once again own Louisiana skies, squadrons cruising the coast like feathered fighter jets, diving with Olympic precision. From extinct to abundant in just decades, it's another one of America's greatest conservation success stories. Fact 32. Ghost lights of the bayou. Louisiana's swamps come with their own horror movie effect. Mysterious feux follets, or flickering will-o'-the-wisps that dance above the marshes after dark. Cajun folklore says they're evil spirits or lost children luring travelers deeper into the swamp. Scientists blame gases from rotting plants that can ignite on their own, but try telling that to Cajuns who swear they've seen these eerie blue-green ghosts bouncing through the darkness. Fact 31. No Man's Land, the neutral strip. Picture the Wild West, with more humidity and alligators. From 1806 to 1821, the border between Spanish Texas and American Louisiana became a lawless neutral ground. With no government in charge, fugitives, pirates, and bandits swarmed the Sabine River region. Even Jean Lafitte set up shop, making it America's original criminal headquarters. The chaos ended in 1821, but today Sabine and Vernon parishes still embrace their outlaw heritage, because being too wild for two countries is worth bragging about. Fact 30. America's 5th largest reservoir. When Texans and Louisianans decide to build something together, you know it's going to be massive, because everything is bigger in Texas, but Louisiana is right up there. Toledo Bend Reservoir, straddling the state line across the Sabine River, is proof that everything really is bigger when these two states collab. Completed in 1969, this artificial giant covers 185,000 acres and stretches 65 miles long, making it the largest man-made body of water in the South and the 5th largest reservoir in the entire country by surface area. It's so enormous that standing on one shore, the opposite side disappears beyond the horizon, like you're staring across an ocean. Both states share everything about Toledo Bend: the water, the hydroelectric power, and the bragging rights. Bass fishermen consider it paradise. It's regularly ranked among America's top trophy bass lakes. Not bad for a lake that humans built from scratch. Fact 29. The 100-mile log jam. Imagine a traffic jam so huge it lasted centuries. In the early 1800s, the Great Raft, a tangled mass of logs and debris stretching up to 160 miles, completely clogged the Red River in northwest Louisiana. Built up over hundreds of years, it blocked all river traffic and turned the river into a sprawling swamp. In the 1830s, Captain Henry Shreve spent years blasting it apart piece by piece. His success reopened the river and launched cities like Shreveport, named after him, and Jefferson, Texas. Fact 28. Oil hidden in salt. Deep beneath Louisiana sit massive oil vaults carved into ancient salt domes. Along with Texas, it houses the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve in underground caverns. At West Hackberry alone, 22 caverns store 228 million barrels. Just one site out of more than 300 million barrels statewide. Some caverns are as tall as skyscrapers and as wide as the Superdome. Engineers create them by dissolving salt, then pumping oil into the hollowed chambers. Buried 2,000 to 4,000 feet down, they're hurricane-proof and invisible from above. Fact 27. Ancient City of Mounds. Long before jazz or gumbo, Louisiana had Poverty Point, a 3,400-year-old engineering marvel. Around 1700 BC, indigenous peoples moved nearly 2 million cubic yards of soil to build 6 semicircular ridges and a 72-foot mound. The ridges span 3/4 of a mile, so large the design is only visible from the air, like a prehistoric crop circle. Its purpose remains a mystery, likely a trading hub and ceremonial center where thousands once gathered. Here's the kicker. When you stand on top of Mound A, you're on a monument already 1,000 years old when Rome was founded. Fact 26, the Giant Gulf Dead Zone. Every summer, Louisiana's coast turns into a massive underwater dead zone where nothing can live. This oxygen-starved wasteland usually spans 6,000 to 7,000 square miles, about the size of Hawaii, and in 2017 hit a record 8,776, bigger than New Jersey. The culprit is fertilizer runoff from the Mississippi, which fuels algae blooms that die, decay, and strip the water of oxygen. Fish and shrimp flee like refugees, and locals joke sea life has to hold its breath just to pass by. It's a man-made ghost town in what should be some of America's richest fishing waters. Fact 25, La Baton Rouge, the Red Stick. Baton Rouge literally means red stick in French, and the original was nothing like a hockey stick. In 1699, explorer Pierre Lemoyne d'Iberville spotted a cypress pole on a Mississippi bluff smeared with blood and decorated with fish heads and bear carcasses. The Huma and Bayou tribes had raised it as a boundary marker, prehistoric Louisiana's most metal landmark. The French named it Le Baton Rouge, giving the capital one of North America's oldest indigenous-inspired place names. Fact 24, world's oldest streetcars. New Orleans' St. Charles Avenue line has run since 1835, making it the oldest continuously operating street railway on Earth. These olive green cars have survived the Civil War, countless hurricanes, and repeated pushes to modernize. Today, it's surreal riding a 19th century streetcar past skyscrapers while oak branches scrape the roof. But in New Orleans, time traveling on your daily commute feels perfectly normal. Fact 23, longest bayou in the world. When Louisiana does bayous, it goes big. Bayou Bartholomew holds the world title as Earth's longest bayou, meandering 364 miles from Arkansas through Louisiana like nature's own highway. This coffee-colored waterway was once buzzing with steamboat commerce, but today it's a wildlife paradise, hosting over 100 aquatic species, making it the second most biodiverse stream in North America. Locals still fish its murky waters for bream and catfish, while spring transforms its banks into a lotus-blooming wonderland. Fact 22, no rocks, no problem. Unlike every other state, Louisiana has almost no natural rock outcrops. The land is one giant layer of soil and sediment, thanks to a humid climate that quickly weathers rock and the Mississippi dumping mud for millennia. The upside? Great farming, and no boulders in your yard. The downside, geologists have to drill deep or leave the state to find actual rock. Fact 21, brackish Lake Pontchartrain. Despite the name, Lake Pontchartrain isn't a lake at all, but a 630 square mile estuarine lagoon, one of America's largest inland saltwater bodies. Its brackish waters mix redfish and speckled trout with freshwater species, and from the middle, it feels like an inland sea. Yet, it's only 12 to 14 feet deep, so winds can whip up huge waves. Beloved as New Orleans' playground and protective barrier, it nearly became the city's worst nightmare during Hurricane Katrina. Today, stronger levees help keep this lake where it belongs, outside the French Quarter. Fact 20, Spanish moss isn't Spanish, or moss. Spanish moss, one of Louisiana's most recognizable sites, is misleadingly named. It's neither Spanish nor a true moss, but a bromeliad, making it a distant cousin of pineapples. Native to the Americas, it survives by pulling nutrients from air and rain. Despite its Southern Gothic vibe, it doesn't harm the trees. It simply hangs there like the world's most low-maintenance house guest. Fact 19, Avery Island's salty secret. Avery Island, famously known as Tabasco sauce's birthplace, isn't, once again, technically an island. It's a massive salt dome rising from Louisiana's coastal plains. This 2,200-acre geological oddity sits on top of a salt pillar that extends miles underground, creating the only high ground for miles, around a whopping 163 feet above sea level, practically a mountain by Louisiana standards. The McElhenney family has been making Tabasco here for over 150 years, and the salt dome's unique properties create perfect growing conditions for these famous red peppers. Fact 18, America's first climate refugees. Ile de Jean-Charles in Terrebonne Parish has lost 98% of its land since 1955, shrinking from 22,000 acres to barely a quarter mile by 2 miles. Home to Ile de Jean-Charles Band, of Biloxi Chitimacha Choctaw Indians, the island could no longer sustain its community. In 2016, the tribe secured federal funding to relocate inland, becoming the first federally recognized group forced to leave ancestral land because of land loss. It's a bittersweet milestone, and a warning for other vulnerable Louisiana towns facing the same fate. Fact 17. It rained fish. Remember the Oscar-nominated movie Magnolia, where it rained frogs? Seems impossible, right? Well, this town came close and rained fish. On October 23, 1947, Marksville, Louisiana experienced something straight out of the Old Testament. Fish literally falling from the sky. During a foggy morning, perch and small fish dropped all over town. This wasn't mass hysteria. Newspapers documented the bizarre event. Scientists believe a waterspout siphoned fish from a nearby bayou, carried them in a cloud, then dumped the catch inland like nature's own delivery service. While fish rains have been reported elsewhere, Marksville's remains among North America's most famous. Fact 16. The Jazz Funeral Paradox. New Orleans jazz funerals turn mourning into celebration. A brass band leads the casket with slow, solemn music. But after the burial, the tempo shifts to upbeat jazz as the second line of dancing mourners celebrates the soul's journey to heaven. It's the only place in America where funerals transform into street parties, complete with parasols, music, and dancing. Fact 15. Rockets built in the bayou. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Excuse the pun. The Saturn V rockets that launched every Apollo moon mission were built in New Orleans. NASA's Michoud Assembly Facility in eastern New Orleans was ground zero for America's space race, churning out massive first stages in the 1960s. More than 12,000 workers labored around the clock to meet JFK's deadline, producing 15 Saturn V boosters, meaning every astronaut who walked on the moon launched on a rocket born in the Big Easy. Michoud later built the space shuttle's iconic orange fuel tanks, and today manufactures components for NASA's new Artemis moon program. It's pretty bizarre. One of Earth's largest space hardware factories sits smack in the middle of Louisiana's swampland. Fact 14. Frog capital of the world. The town of Rain, Louisiana earned its quirky title in the early 1900s, when French entrepreneurs turned frog farming into big business. By the 1930s, the Louisiana Frog Company was the world's largest exporter, shipping 500,000 frogs a year to restaurants, labs, and even NASA for space experiments. Rain no longer exports frogs, but it embraces the legacy with an annual frog festival, complete with races, frog kissing contests, and colorful murals celebrating its amphibian past. Fact 13. Sportsman's Paradise. Louisiana's nickname isn't just marketing, it's reality. With over 3 million acres of wetlands and endless bayous, the state is heaven for outdoorsmen. A typical day might start with saltwater redfish at dawn, freshwater bass by afternoon, and frog spotlighting or wild boar hunting after dark. The Atchafalaya Swamp produces 90% of America's crawfish, while coastal marshes host millions of ducks and geese. Come spring, Camp Gunnawanna signs dot back roads as families head out for turkey season. Here, living off the land is tradition. Many prefer stocking their freezer with venison, duck, fish, and gator over a trip to the grocery store. Fact 12. Floating tombs. Warning, this one is a little bit morbid. Louisiana's below sea level geography creates one of America's most unusual burial challenges. The dead won't stay buried. In areas like New Orleans, bodies placed in traditional underground graves have an unfortunate habit of floating back to the surface during floods. Definitely not what grieving families have in mind. This watery problem led to Louisiana's famous above-ground cities of the dead, with stone tombs that look like miniature mansions. Fact 11. Living dinosaur fish. Let us introduce you to Louisiana's most prehistoric resident, the alligator gar, a living fossil that's been terrorizing bayou fish since the age of dinosaurs. These ancient beasts can grow over 10 feet long and weigh up to 350 pounds. Imagine a torpedo-shaped fish the size of a kayak armed with armor-like scales and a snout full of razor-sharp teeth. Despite looking like they could bite an alligator in half, these 100-million-year-old survivors are harmless to humans and actually help balance ecosystems by eating rough fish. Locals respect them as the ancient kings of the swamp. And when someone lands a monster, like the 179-pound record holder caught in the Red River in 1997, it makes statewide headlines. Fact 10. Disappearing Lake. The Disappearing Lake, Catahoula Lake in central Louisiana, pulls off a vanishing act every year. Each summer, it drains to almost nothing, exposing a mudflat dotted with thousands of tree stumps. By late summer, it looks like a grassy prairie where locals even drive trucks across the lake bed. Come winter, rains and the Little River refill it to 30,000 acres of open water, the state's largest natural freshwater lake. With water levels swinging more than 20 feet annually, it's a globally recognized wetland and a sportsman's dream. Duck hunting in December, crappie fishing in March, all in the same spot. Fact 9. Parishes, not counties. Louisiana is the only U.S. state with parishes instead of counties, a legacy of French and Spanish colonial rule when government districts matched church parishes. Today, there are 64 of them, from Orleans to Lafayette. Functionally, they're counties, but for Louisianans, the word county sounds as out of place as snow on Mardi Gras. It's a small quirk, but a fierce point of pride that reflects the state's unique history under French, Spanish, and American rule. Fact 8. The Bayou State's name mystery. Louisiana's name honors French King Louis XIV, the Sun King. But here's where it gets interesting. Nobody can agree on exactly how it happened. The most accepted theory credits explorer René Robert Cavalli, Sieur de la Salle, who claimed the entire Mississippi River Basin for France in 1682 and named it La Louisiane after his king. But some historians argue it was actually named for Louis XIV's heir, Louis, the Grand Dauphin. Either way, Louisiana is literally named after French royalty who never set foot in a bayou, never tasted gumbo, and probably would have fainted at the humidity. Fact 7. Towering capital. Louisiana's state capital in Baton Rouge is the tallest in America, rising 450 feet in 34 stories of Art Deco ambition. Built in 1932 as Governor Huey P. Long's signature project, it was meant to tower as boldly as his politics. And you can see it from 20 miles away. Inside are ornate sculptures and a 27th floor observation deck with sweeping Mississippi views. In 1935, Long was assassinated here, and bullet holes still mark the spot. Today, the building stands as both Louisiana's literal high point and a symbol of the state's refusal to do anything halfway. Fact 6. The Pope's Louisiana visit. In 1987, Pope John Paul II held the largest outdoor mass in U.S. history in Louisiana. This huge gathering took place at the UNO Lakefront Arena parking lot in New Orleans, drawing over 200,000 faithful people. But the real Louisiana magic happened when hurricane winds threatened the visit. Local meteorologists worked around the clock to find a weather window, and miraculously, the storms parted just long enough for the mass. Locals still joke that even Mother Nature respects Louisiana hospitality, and that the Pope's blessing might explain why New Orleans football team finally won a Super Bowl 22 years later. Fact 5. Louisiana's forgotten mental health city. From 1848 to the 1960s, Louisiana ran one of the South's most unusual psychiatric facilities, the East Louisiana State Hospital in Jackson. More like a self-contained city than a hospital, it sprawled over 600 acres, housed thousands of patients, and included farms, a dairy, workshops, even its own fire department. Today, it still operates, now the Eastern Louisiana Mental Health System, but on a much smaller scale. Its hefty grounds and historic buildings remain a reminder of when mental health care meant building entire institutional communities. Fact 4. No reptiles at the party. 200-yard rule. Another wacky law for you. One of the strictest animal limitations in the United States is found in Louisiana's parade laws. No reptiles are allowed within 200 yards of a parade. Apparently, Louisiana decided that beads, floats, and brass bands are thrilling enough without adding scaly critters to the mix. The regulation most likely came into effect to prevent disruption during crowded procession settings, seeing as a loose snake could turn a happy street celebration into a chaotic stampede. But who knows? Fact 3. The town that a hurricane erased, except for the cemetery. In 1915, the small town of Peigneur in Louisiana was completely obliterated by a Category 4 hurricane, and locals swear it happened exactly as predicted. According to documented accounts, a local voodoo priestess named Julia Brown had warned that when she died, she would take others with her. On the day of her funeral in September 1915, a massive hurricane struck with perfect timing, killing the town's residents and washing away every building, business, and home. Today, all that remains of Peigneur is its cemetery, standing like a lonely monument in the middle of Manchoc Swamp. Fact 2. Louisiana's underground salt dome empire. Louisiana is riddled with 128 salt domes, giant geological skyscrapers hidden beneath the surface. Some stretch more than 2 miles wide and plunge thousands of feet deep, ranking among North America's largest formations. Famous examples include Avery Island, home of Tabasco, the oil caverns of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and the 5 islands rising from coastal marshes. These domes were born from ancient seas that evaporated millions of years ago, leaving behind salt that slowly pushed upward through softer sediments like natural elevators. Fact 1. Black gold beneath your feet. Louisiana's Mississippi River Delta region sits on some of the most fertile soil on planet Earth. And we're talking about dirt so rich it's practically black gold. This incredibly dark, almost black earth represents thousands of years of the mighty Mississippi doing what it does best, collecting the finest sediments, nutrients, and organic matter from 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces. Then dumping this agricultural treasure trove across Louisiana's delta. The end result? Alluvian soil, so nutrient-packed that it helped build Louisiana's agricultural empire. This is the dirt that made sugarcane plantations profitable, cotton fields legendary, and rice farming so successful that Louisiana became America's 3rd largest rice producer. What about 50 wild facts about Nevada you never knew?